Even though I consider myself a very like orthodox techno person, I'd like to play techno from like all different sorts of eras and trying to put it together, telling us like a history story, like, hey, this is me, I'm ahead, I know what I'm playing, and this is what you're gonna get in the set. It's not gonna be everything that's new, but it's not gonna be everything that's old. It's gonna be like a very good mixture of different flavors. Because I'm playing so many different styles of techno and jumping around, it has to be like super precise. It can't be sloppy, or the energy can't drop or jump suddenly. Like you really have to like come correct, almost like hit it and quit it and get out. You know, it's a statement. New York is my second home. It's a home away from home in the Midwest, because spend my summers out here as a kid, be around family, just completely immersed in the culture. It's almost like a refuge, really. I mean, I know the city pretty much like the back of my hand now. A1 Records is like, it's a very specific cultural record store for New York City, specifically like the techno scene. Just very well curated. Whenever I go there, I always look for very specific 90s techno records that define the New York City scene. People like Damon Wild, Sinewave, obviously Drexia, Underground Resistance, DJ Stingray, who's been my mentor since I was like a teenager. My favorite DJ of all time, I would probably say, is Ryan Elliott. I mean, there's just a whole realm of influences. I always just try to stay open-minded because I like to play all types of techno, really. I consider myself like a jack of all trades when it comes to techno. I don't play like a specific style of techno, but rather I'm good at taking elements of all the different styles and putting them together cohesively to make my sort of like signature sets. And I like adjusting to that. You could play all the classic records and still be whack. It's about how you play them. You can have a bit of style, flair, when you drop it at the right time, or if you play it at a certain speed and things like that. One of my friends told me that, I internalized this a long time ago. He said that with DJing, 90% of it is style and taste, like the records that you choose, and the other 10% is technical skill. And I sort of like internalized that, which is why I enjoy digging and spending so much time digging through archives, older techno, and mixing that with like newer stuff. And like once you develop that distinct style, it makes you stand out. In order to be a good techno DJ, you have to dig for records. Like there's no way around it. I mean, it takes your knowledge and approach to another level. To me, DJing means I'm having a conversation with the world. The fact that people are trusting me to choose music and present it to them and tell them a story, it's like an entire room is giving me the chance to almost preach to them in some way. They're trusting me to tell them a narrative, sell them a narrative, put together a clear, concise story that maybe it'll inspire them to do something afterwards. Like you're seizing the moment. The funny thing is, I had never intended on becoming a DJ in techno. I was always just kind of a kid who enjoyed going to festivals and parties alongside with some other friends. And then one day, a friend gave me an opportunity to play at a bar, and I brought some records that I had, and it came natural. And then less than maybe 5 months later, I was getting booked in another city to play, and then months after that in another country. It all kind of came fast, but it makes sense because in a way I spent 10 years just studying, just like enjoying the music as a consumer. So when it was time to actually try DJing out, it just, everything connected together. Almost, I guess you could say I was a bit of a natural. It just, everything sort of like lined up, like the universe puts everything into place. Fast forward to now, literally in New York City, about to play 5 hours from now, you know, it just kind of happens. You just let stuff manifest, as they say. My DJ name is He Valencia. Basically, I always liked feminine Spanish names. For some odd reason, I have always had a fascination with that. And then like growing up Afro-Latino, just kind of like speaking a little Spanish growing up. Just that sort of stuck with me. I always thought that like feminine Spanish names were pretty. So I decided that I was like, okay, let me take like a pretty feminine Spanish name and then combine that with some masculine qualities and sort of like capture this energy of both masculine and feminine. So that's why I go by the name He Valencia, because I'm trying to find like this middle point where I can play between both qualities.
What's going on with the outfit today?
Okay, so like obviously Nikes, these are actually not Jordans, but they're just a dunk colorway, a bread colorway, lows. And then the pants, they're by this LA designer called Second Layer. I really like their silhouettes. It's very like a cholo, West Coast rocker type inspired, like it kind of like 60s gangster. Obviously this is like a ribbed undershirt, maximum comfort. And this is a thrifted, double-breasted houndstooth blazer from the 90s, I believe. Yeah, so I'm just trying to like experiment with like sort of like bigger stuff, slightly like oversized and whatnot. Just comfort, really. One of the reasons why I like fashion is because I grew up a very introverted kid, and with like clothing, you could say a lot without saying anything at all. And so when I would be going to school, you know, you put on like a fly outfit, you making a statement without saying anything, without yelling. It's just like, hey, this is who I am. You're literally wearing your personality outside of your body. It's a bit tribalistic, really. Maybe it ties back to like Africa, how maybe in tribal societies or whatever, when people weren't necessarily speaking the languages that we do, or like pre-language civilizations, people would kind of like signify themselves with like clothing, tribal markings, things of that nature. And maybe just fashion is an extension of that sort of ancient language, really. Because I mean, it symbolizes so much. It can symbolize wealth, family status, if you're a warrior, or if you're like a king, or, you know, or just like a working person. There's so much you can say with so little. So yeah, that's why I've always been super into fashion. The crazy thing about it, the way I dress is very much influenced by New York. So when I would come here as a kid and my parents would take me around, and I would kind of take like those style cues, internalize it mentally, bring it back to the Midwest, and be like this sort of like cool kid in the neighborhood with like all the like fly styles, like this kind of like foreign kid, and just kind of like look at that as a model of culture, really. One of the best trends to kind of happen in the past 2 years was people getting back into wearing like big jackets, wide shoulders, like big pants, stuff like that. You know, instead of like this just skinny, slim trend. That was kind of boring and depressing. So now people are like playing with the body size and stuff like that. It's exciting, really. Some of my earliest memories in New York City was going to Ben's Best Pizza from the time I was like 6 years old up until like a grown adult. And it's a very specific area of New York where a lot of like counterculture and subculture that was born. So when I would go to the pizzeria, I would always go to like the punk record stores and whatnot that were near it. Obviously they're gone now, but I would get exposed to like so much different subculture, whether it be like punk culture or the drag culture, nightlife. And I think that's kind of like simultaneously or single-handedly sort of like influenced my approach to culture. The difference between like Midwest pizza and New York pizza, in my opinion, there's honestly like no competition. The thing with Midwest pizza is just like, they take as much cheese as possible and throw it all in a bowl. It's just like, that's not pizza, that's like a pie or something, or soup. Whereas like with New York pizza, you get a thin slice, just the perfect amount of cheese, but you get like this wide surface area where you get like everything just kind of falls together, really. And obviously, you know, you just fold it and have a bite. I mean, it's science, really. There's just something about this location that a bit chill and cool, sort of like older Greenwich Village, that you really don't see too much in New York anymore. It's a dying part. And obviously like this region has changed so much. It used to be super artsy, now it's a bit more like upper class, but I mean, it's still a cool spot. It's cool that this spot has been holding out for like all these years amidst all of the urban renewal, gentrification, and stuff like that, you know?
As far as food goes, any other New York foods that you're into?
Yeah, there's this place called Sylvia's. It's in Harlem. It's just kind of like your quintessential classic black soul food. I mean, she throws down, you know, you're gonna get like your candied yams, your fried chicken, cornbread, stuff like that. Just like very classic black American soul food, like super authentic. It's often replicated, highly imitated, but when people do it correctly, I mean, you really can't beat that. To me, that's better than any other type of food in the world, you know? So this is crazy. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like after we would eat pizza here, my dad, we would just like sit here and watch guys play ball and whatnot, like pick up ball. And he would tell me stories how like back in the day, he'd be playing pickup ball for money and whatnot. It's like so many distinct memories sitting by this specific court that sort of like stuck with me throughout my childhood, just like constantly coming to the city and whatnot. Super distinct. Some people from the Midwest, they kind of get overwhelmed by the city experience, but to me, it's something that just comes completely natural. You don't even have to think about it. It's just something that's a part of my DNA. Like New York is a part of me as a person. Like it's sort of built me, the personality that I have, the person I am, the beliefs that I have, just how I go about things in life. The city just really influenced my thought process. So we're headed to meet up with some friends, with some buddies. They're actually the promoters that's throwing the show. We're gonna have just like a little impromptu dinner, just basically just catch up. Cause I mean, we haven't seen each other since the beginning of the pandemic. So it'd be cool to just kind of like meet up in person and just kind of like get a gist of what's going on, what we're plotting next musically, and just kind of I mean, really just connect with some friends in person, really. Just a bunch of buddies kicking in, you know, good old times.
The gig tonight is My Party Spiritual Mental Festival, SMP for short, and it's SMP's first time ever hosting at Bossa Nova Civic Club, which for those of you who don't know, who've been living under a rock, it's like the most infamous techno joint, like low-key techno joint in Brooklyn.
It's featured in,
boroughs.
yeah, it's featured in Gossip Girl.
Is it really?
Superstar status, yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. I mean, that's very on brand. That's great. So it's gonna be Aloyso, my resident Black Lauren, and then myself, and the three of us we're gonna just throw a party for the people. When I first started to DJ back in like 2011, 2012, Bossa was like this mystical place, and I just thought like if I could ever play there, like then I would have made it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then like when I was coming up, I was in a crew with a bunch of like 3 other women, and we had like a crew called 4 on the Floor, and we were doing parties in like loft spaces and shit. And then at the same time, Disc Woman was starting up, and they were holding it down with techno feminism, I think, at Bossa. And I remember just being like, oh, we're like 2 like moons like orbiting the same New York sun. And I was like, I would love to like the opportunity to throw down at Bossa, because Bossa is like, it's just always fun. Like it's always lit. I feel like people are pretty open-minded there, even though it's known for techno. I've played a lot of sets there that are like go all over.
Everybody's open-minded.
Yeah, people are just down for it. The whole point of SMP is it's multi-genre. It's like it's all things for all times of the night, for all occasions. So I'm excited to go a little harder at Bossa, because I know that the crowd are really receptive to that and they're open to that versus like other venues. So I brought a lot of like cool, like sexy, like hard shit that I don't get to play a lot anywhere else, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to do that. Like I'm so fucking excited for Aloyso's set, because like I've never seen you or heard you play live. Everything I've heard of yours is like a mix, and your mixes are fucking awesome. And like everything you post on like your stories, I look up every record that you post on your stories. So like I want to see. And then the set you did for SMP last summer was so beautiful, and you really do work at your shit. You study your shit. shit. And like, I don't even play techno that way because I don't listen to that kind of techno. You have an ear. You've developed an ear for this shit, and I see it in the way you talk about it, and the way you play it, and how you share all of it. So I'm excited for your set in that regard. Like, I really do. I said this in promotion, and I mean it. Like, I think it's gonna be a monster class for everyone. Yeah.
It'll be.
But
I'm nervous.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You just take a shot, and you'll be fine.
I had to start wearing glasses recently, mostly at night, because like my vision, far vision, is like really blurry because of the low lights. I can't even see like the signs and stuff if I don't wear glasses at night. Yeah.
What's in the bag?
I actually brought my MacBook because I'm just like backing up some files real quick before I play, because I mean I downloaded some music today. So the thing with like DJing digitally and getting at this point is that like people are always going to send you demos like constantly, like throughout the day. So like whenever I refresh my email, people will send me demos from like labels or other smaller independent artists will send me their music, and like I will flip through it and listen to it and be like, oh yeah, this is cool, like maybe I should play it tonight. So that's one of the cool things about being a bit mobile. So I just sort of like keep my MacBook with me and just download people's music via email. I'm learning how to start with pretty high energy, and then that way you can capture people's attention at ASAP. And then once you capture their attention, you can kind of like pull them into whatever direction you want, you know? I mean, it's honestly just playing by ear. Anything could happen. I could maybe want to start with high energy and then like completely switch it up. It's really just, but I mean, like when I build sets though, I sort of start with like a starting point and an end point, and then I just let everything else sort of like fall in between. You just kind of like read the vibe, really.
Can I get some alcohol?
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm gonna be doing. Feeling bags, I mean, like, what is this?
What's up? Burning up. So sweaty.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel musty as hell. Yeah, I'll be forgetting the city. It just be like,
It's a warm night, you know? Like, this is a warm
I'm a country boy. Like, you know, it's like just a musty vibe. I'll be forgetting. Like when you're doing all the walking, I have to like
Yeah, exactly.
pace myself and everything. I'm like, damn,
Oh,
long time no see. LA, that was like
when I was still drinking.
that was like 2 years ago. I remember you was like
I was lit
in
that
there,
night.
like it was a tight party though.
Yeah, it was.
I distinctly remember somebody, they were like running laps around the entire club. It was like, yeah, I'm just like, I mean, I'm not hating, but I'm like, damn, this person was really, they went to get their workout.
Stick to your goal.
And like, they weren't like hopping, they were like nearly like jogging, like
Sprints,
back,
you know, that's the only way
yeah.
to do it. Gotta keep that heart rate
LA.
up.
It makes sense, because everybody on the West be like holistic.
Yeah.
So yeah, people kind of don't acknowledge is that when you like traveling to a different place and playing, it takes a lot of energy, emotion, because like humans, we're not supposed to be thrown, thrown into a new environment. It's like you a baby, and then like you get out the hospital, but you take that and then you do it a different country. It is kind of like,
It's
yeah, I ain't even wore a mask since like March. Like, it's so laxed in the Midwest. Like, we just vibing. My USB sticks and my playlist that I prepped, my MacBook crashed and deleted half of the music that I prepared over the past couple of days. So what I had to do with like minimal battery power on the MacBook, minimal like 30 minutes, I had to like literally drag and drop files that I downloaded maybe like 5 hours ago. And I made just like a quick impromptu playlist, and I mixed that with my older USBs that I've been playing on for years and played like this sort of, just like a hybrid set of like the old stuff that I know with new stuff. I'm gonna improvise, so I carry extra USBs with me. I'm just gonna play some older music mixed in with whatever I can get on this. And this might not even work. It might just be fully corrupted. If not, then I'll just have to play something off my past collection.
Do you think you'll still be able to have a good set and be able to affect your set? Or?
Hopefully, yeah. I think I'll be able to, it'll be a harder puzzle, so we'll try. I'm gonna have to like focus more. My brain be overthinking like a million. I was so nervous, and then literally the worst possible thing happened, and I worked through that. So essentially what you have to do is just keep pushing through, even if you feel like you probably won't do it. You never know, you could hit like a breaking point. And I felt like even through that mishap, I managed to get some pretty good moments out of the set where I kind of like experiment with records from my past and new records from the future to kind of like make something semi-cohesive. So it was a panic, but it worked. I survived. I pulled it off. This is what it is. If you don't know your music, you would be completely messed over. So this is why it's good to like study your records and know everything that you play. So if something like that happens, you can improvise and make something new on the fly. So next time we're gonna have backups on top of backups and faster USBs.
It felt like you kind of got in your groove as a set.
Yeah, I
Like
did.
you were really like near the end there.
Yeah, there were some elements where I felt like, especially when I was playing like more funky, loopy techno, like the sort of stuff you would get in the late 90s, like early 2000s, like I call it that sort of like Love Parade techno sound. It's like that sort of like late 90s Jeff Mills, it's just real funky drums. Yeah, I mean, we made it, so I'm just trying I'm trying to like survive this come down. Yeah, I'm about to just go back inside, say hi, bye to some homies, and catch the last 35 minutes. And this is He Valencia, aka MoMA PS5, aka Aloysa Woolma, aka one of the most hated niggas in this techno game. I'm signing out, and I'm bouncing like a bad check.